Patriots. I'm Lee Watts, and this is Patriot Point, your source for Kentucky news and analysis from a conservative, Christian, and common sense point of view. Well, this week we're going to be talking about the pro-life fight here in Kentucky. About 2 weeks ago now, the United States Supreme Court reversed the famous Roe versus Wade decision, putting the decision if abortion is going to be legal or not to the states. Well, Kentucky is one of 13 states that has what is called a trigger law. And that is a law, it was called the Human Life Protection Act. It was passed back in 2019 with bipartisan support. And it says, if we get the decision, then we're not going to be having these abortions here in Kentucky. So super excited about that. However, we have had one woke judge that is deciding he is going to cancel Kentucky's pro-life measures. We're going to be talking about what he has done, who he is, I'm just going to call him out, and why he should be immediately removed from office by the Kentucky state legislature for violating the law. So this law here, it was passed, and the liberals hate the legal process because they keep losing in the legal process, so they just want to try to ignore that. Remember, it is the legislative branch that makes laws. The judicial branch is just supposed to judge the law between the people. They are never supposed to make up laws. So we have this pro-life law that was passed, and then after that's enacted, you have the ACLU and Planned Parenthood. Pretty much anything, therefore, put me down as against. Two of the most wicked organizations in the entire nation. So they take this court, they shop around, and they find this one liberal judge in Louisville. He's the Jefferson County Circuit Judge. His name is Mitch Perry. And they say, listen, we don't like this law. We still want to kill babies. And so what does Judge Mitch Perry do? He says, okay, I'm just canceling this law. I'm just putting a stop to it. He can't throw it out, but he can suspend the law, put a stay on it. Now, think about this. This is a law which was passed by the legislature, representative of the entire people of the state of Kentucky and their elected body of the state legislature. This guy, Judge Mitch Perry, he's not elected by the state. You got the people just around Louisville who chose him, and yet he is exercising authority over the entire state legislature when like 99% of Kentuckians, they don't even get a vote on this guy being in office or not. That is having no representation. Now, I want you to notice, I'm going to give you a quote here from one of the major news sources. It's called Reuters. And notice how they are phrasing this ruling that came through the Supreme Court recently. They said, the U.S. Supreme Court, in the aftermath of its decision last week, stop right there. Notice how they're putting those subtle propaganda things in, calling it the aftermath, as if it's a disaster, subtly putting that in. Last week to overturn the landmark Roe versus Wade ruling that legalized abortion nationwide. Now notice the second thing they've done. They say that legalized. The Supreme Court legalized something. The Supreme Court is not supposed to make laws, and yet that is what has happened. The United States Congress has never passed a law making abortion legal. The Supreme Court made up a law that is a violation of the separation of powers to the executive, legislative, and judicial. So we have this Kentucky judge who is now suspending the law that was made by the state legislature. Here is where this judge has violated the highest law in Kentucky. Kentucky Constitution, section number 15, paragraph 1 says, no power to suspend laws shall be exercised unless by the General Assembly or its authority, which have not given this guy this authority. This specifically says that a law cannot be suspended unless the General Assembly does it, or their authority. This guy is not the General Assembly. He is not their designated authority. He is in direct, specific violation of the highest law in our state, Kentucky Constitution, section 15, paragraph number 1. So you got these three different departments in the government. You got the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. What else has this Judge Mitch Perry violated? He has violated Kentucky Constitution section 28, which says, no person or collection of persons being of one of those departments, meaning legislative, executive, or judicial, shall exercise any power properly belonging to either of the others. Well, remember, the only power to suspend laws comes to the state legislature. This judge has said, I'm going to suspend a law. That is a power belonging specifically to the legislative branch, meaning this guy is in direct, specific violation of Kentucky Constitution sections number 15 and section numbers 28, which is why he should be removed from office. And removing a judge from office has happened in Kentucky several times before. The last time that a judge was impeached in Kentucky was in the year 1916. So there is precedent for this, and there should be again. Impeachment is up to the General Assembly in Kentucky Constitution sections 66 through 68, and specifically dealing with the judges, also section number 109. And so what we can do about this is we need to start contacting our state representatives and senators saying, listen, we have a judge who has violated the will of the people through their duly elected General Assembly to pass a bipartisan bill. They did this following the legal process, and we have one guy who 99% of the state doesn't even get a chance to vote for or against, is violating two different sections of the Kentucky Constitution and just canceling the law for the entire state. At best, maybe he could do it for his little circuit. But no, he's going beyond his judicial authority, beyond his jurisdiction, and needs to be removed from office. Why do we have these judges that continue to make up laws? I'll tell you exactly why, because they are not held accountable. And it's just like the Bible says in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter number 8 and verse number 11, which says, because sentence against an evil work is not executed, it is fully set in the hearts of the sons of men to do evil. So what does this mean? You have an evil work and there's nothing being done about it. It's just going to encourage the people to do more evil works. And so we have judges who for years have been just making up laws, have been violating the rights of the General Assembly, and the General Assembly is just letting them get away with it. And so it encourages these judges to think that they should have a seat at the table of making laws when they don't deserve a seat at that table. The legislative branch makes laws and needs to exercise authority over the judicial branch. We've all probably been taught in school that we have three separate and equal branches of government. You were taught wrong if you were taught that. Nowhere in our Constitution does it say we have three equal branches of government. It says we have three separate branches, not equal. And that is something that the left has been pushing through the schools and the media for generations now, is that they're equal. The legislative branch is superior to both the executive and to the judicial. Do you realize that every single ruling that ever came from the Kentucky State Supreme Court or the United States Supreme Court starts with these words? It is the opinion of the court that. And that's all it is. It is just their opinion. It is not law. All this is supposed to do is to make the legislative branch take a second look at what they have done, but it doesn't exercise authority and remove the authority of the legislative branch. The state's chief law enforcement officer is our Attorney General, Daniel Cameron. He's the one who's been arguing against what's been going on here. Notice what he said about Judge Mitch Perry's ruling. Talking about Mitch Perry, he says this judge has, without basis in the Kentucky Constitution, allowed 2 clinics to resume abortions. So you have here the Attorney General, the highest lawyer in the state's chief law enforcement officer, saying this guy has no basis in the law to be doing this. He is violating the law. So if you got a judge who is blatantly, repeatedly violating the law, that judge needs to be removed from office. You should contact your state representative and senator and say, hey, you guys need to be moving forward on this. What will this do? This will put the fear of the people back into these judges who are legislating from the bench. Now, the United States Supreme Court has also already been very clear on this whole idea. When they issued this ruling removing Roe versus Wade, at the same day, there was this law down in Arizona that was like ours, saying, hey, we're going to say you're not allowed to do abortions. But you had some judge, a woke liberal judge, throw it out. The Supreme Court said, hey, lower court judge, you're not allowed to do this, and the Arizona law can stand. You're not allowed to overturn it. So that is a precedent in this case. But they didn't stop there. On the exact same day, there was a law in Arkansas saying, hey, we're not going to have abortions, passed by their state legislature. And yet, one liberal woke judge said, I'm going to ignore the law. I'm going to ignore the state legislature, and I'm going to cancel this. The United States Supreme Court said, hey, lower judge, you're not allowed to do that. Your ruling is thrown out and the state law stands. So that was Arizona, Arkansas, and the exact same thing happened in Indiana. Indiana's legislature passed a law for pro-life. One liberal woke judge tried to stop it. The United States Supreme Court threw out that lower court's ruling saying you don't have authority over the state legislature. So the United States Supreme Court not only gave this ruling, but in 3 separate instances has set down a consistent precedent saying, hey, you lower court liberal woke judges, you have no authority to stop laws that have been passed by your state legislature. So this is the law of the land. This is the highest law enforcement officer in our state. These are multiple different constitutional references specifically citing what this guy has done. So this isn't the kind of thing that you hear on the mainstream news sources, which is why I hope you tune into Patriot Point each and every week. So does anybody here think that anything this judge doing is actually legal?
No.
So are you going to sit around and do nothing about this?
No.
That's right. We're going to take action, make some phone calls, send some emails. If you want to call your state senator or representative to say, hey, what this Judge Mitch Perry is doing is illegal. It's violating the will of the people through their duly elected General Assembly. So do something about this. The number to call the Kentucky State Capitol is 1-800-372-7181. Weekdays during normal business hours. And remember, the person that you're calling didn't do this. So remember, be courteous, be brief, and ask them to call you back with what they will be doing. So that's about all the time we have for this week. Next week, I have some other huge news about things going on here in Kentucky. Big scandal that nobody else is mentioning at all. You're going to want to make sure to tune in and watch that and every week of Patriot Point. So until next week, I'm Lee Watts for Patriot Point, reminding you that liberty is not a spectator sport.